The best K-pop songs of 2025 in my opinion. This is my list, what I think about this. Choujimi's thoughts on choujimi.com. You are currently logged on to choujimi.com. I don't listen to and like all the songs that you like, and I know you don't like all the songs that I do. These are my thoughts on the matter. Is it clear to you now? Okay, number 40. We got a lot of these to get through. I'll include a link to my Spotify playlist that I made for 2025 K-pop if that's something that you're interested in. Okay, let's begin.
Turn it up! Adult Swim. Dive in.
Number 40, Adult Swim by Kai. There was a mass psychosis. I don't know a single soul who liked this song besides me, but I do know that they exist out there. They're somewhere in the world, those who do see the vision. I commune with them under full moons. I feel the presence in the rustle of the leaves as I meditate. We exist as a part of a secret society, an order of knights that operate in the shadows. We are the watchers on the wall. Adult Swim is built on so much negative space. I completely understand why it was received weirdly by people. The opening is suspended in soft tonal washes where low register hums really take their time to stretch out. The chorus arrives as a huge tidal shift, driven by rolling synths and widened harmonies that flood the mix with a giant sense of release. Kai's vocal phrasing throughout glides between a sense of surrender to what's happening around him, anchoring the song's ideas about transformation, right? This careful bridge between patience and payoff gives the track its gravity, marking it to me as a standout for how deliberately it lets change feel earned. A great song for coming back from the war. 39, So Cynical by Le Seraphim. This song sits in a sun-burned haze, skin warmed underneath the sun with diffuse synth pads and gentle pulses that work to soften the instrumental edges. The pacing often leans into decompression, giving way to the exhaustion of the heat. The vocals spill and melodic lines blur together as subtle swells guide the song from fatigue towards release. I feel musically a genuine struggle to maintain focus while bathing out under the sun. Or perhaps strong emotions you feel are what is pulling you out of this stupor. The atmosphere-driven design captures the hot album's emotional thesis perfectly, framing love and exhaustion together through the fogginess of the heat outside in the summer.
It hits me like an earthquake.
38, Earthquake by Jisoo. Earthquake is simple and effective, rooted in moody electropop with trap-leading percussion and heavy atmospheric synths. That space in the production lets Jisoo lean into dynamic control and, at times, very delicate phrasings. It works well to build naturally on what's worked for her before, while adding a little bit more vocal nuance. There are subtle harmonies and instrumental details that give it a little bit extra strength, making the song feel like a confident step forward that is fully characteristic of Jisoo as an idol and performer. It really does hit like an earthquake. I love the sort of barely delayed drop that shakes you into the chorus.
Are you okay? Also my head up the bed. Don't you wanna night, so why can't you lift the weight?
37, Are You Okay by EFI. Up until very recently, I could not see the vision with this song. I thought I was in the middle of a CIA level psychological operation, right? Like so many people insisted that I would love this song, and I always thought it was good, but I couldn't quite grasp the fervor around this song. I think I'm beginning to understand though that the strength in this song lives in its musical gradation. A low rolling hum stalks the verses while distant, slightly off-kilter vocals keep you at an arm's length. The percussion stays watchful and the chorus delays its drop just long enough to tighten the tension before landing with such a warped release. It feels like the floor is always shifting beneath this song. That constant push and pull turns discomfort into intention. And I think once you understand that, it becomes so impossible to shake. I get it now. I am okay, I think. 36, Thunder by CIX. Thunder is charged, no pun intended, with insanely strong melodies. We have soaring choruses to like surprisingly intricately shaped verses. Bright synths, biting percussion, sweeping strings, and descending pads give the instrumental room to flex while keeping your focus on the vocals. Every turn in this song feels so satisfying, building emotional weight without dragging anything behind. By year's end, I'm honestly surprised this didn't do more for CIX because the balance of very technical pop polish and hook songwriting is right on the target here. Very, very excellent music. 35, Little Monster by Islet. Little Monster captures so well that childlike fear of the unknown, using almost eerie clipped synths, sharp percussion, and shadowy harmonies to make the fear feel real and just around the corner. as an opener to the Bomb album, it sets Eyelet's dreamscape tone immediately while sneaking in real narrative weight through the production. The focus on vulnerable, kind of shaky voices at times mirrors facing those fears head on, turning the song into a thematic and musical statement in its own right. It's subtle-ish in reference to also what they've been through as artists, and exactly the kind of intention and ambition I look for in K-pop and in music in general.
My resolution? Airstrikes. Bomb them. Bomb them, keep bombing them, bomb them again and again.
Ain't nobody in the money that can do it like you. Put your body on my body, near that midnight rendezvous.
34, Body by Dayoung. Body rides the obligatory, I would say Tinashe-inspired R&B groove with passionate synths and intimate vocal layerings, and importantly, little surprisingly, Dayoung makes the sound feel entirely her own. She inhabits the style with pure confidence, and a bit of necessary, I guess, nuance here, bending phrasing and tone in ways that feel so effortless to her. Coming from Uju Sanya, it's a surprise, but the performance and production choices do so much to highlight her growth as an artist and solidify her presence in a sound space that suits her so perfectly. Very, very excellent. 33, The Stranger by On and Off. This song is a full-on showcase of On and Off's vocals. Every line and harmony and run hits with conviction. The 80s inspired production, the shimmering synths, staccated drums, is completely embraced, and importantly, without feeling empty or dated, which is no small feat post K-pop's 2020 80s synthwave fever pitch. The way they ride the melodies makes the song feel lived in and authentic to them as artists. I think their artistry and why they're idols and performers is undeniable in this song from start to finish, as is the case with most of this group's work. 32, There They Go by Kiki. This song leans into synths and vocal samples that are very vintage by nature, and all throughout is incorporated this rhythmic breathing to build a genuinely mysterious atmosphere. The song, as it represents part of their debut, and Kiki as artists, feels elusive in a way that it makes their debut really hard to pin down. It's packed with personality and intent. I can feel the intention, right? But underneath that is such an expansive depth of subtle harmonies, textures, and rhythmic quirks that keep me guessing, making it as, I guess, questionable in a good way as it is engaging. 31, VVV by The Boys. This song is built entirely around Ascent, with the pre-chorus acting as the emotional and structural apex, easily the star of the show in my opinion. We have these sweeping synths that rise in such wide intervals, pulling tension upward as, quote, break apart but leave your mark, locks you into the climb. To me, everything else exists to really sharpen that lift, and that focus on one high-stakes moment gives the song such charge. The fragile delivery of Break Apart right before the rise has stuck with me all year. 30, What You Want by Cordis. What You Want is confident and full-bodied, showing a big-name group at their debut flexing personality in a stripped-back and surprisingly direct way. The members' vocals, ad-libs, and even just the smallest production touches give the track real ownership and presence. I see it kind of as the core of Cordis' debut, a real starting point for their artistic declaration, landing every beat exactly where it needs to for a song of this kind of grunge caliber. I understand that it certainly borders on the uncomfortably performative for some people when you trace back the references, and I do think we run into some problems with that in K-pop universally, but I don't necessarily think the problem is performativity in that sense, right? A lot of what youth and growing up is performance. This debut lands as incredibly effective in that regard. It makes me excited to see what they do next and how they grow into an identity that is hopefully a bit more in line with their vision for the future.
I'm that attitude.
29, Attitude by IVE. IVE is making a habit out of releasing so early in the year that I kind of forget what year their releases actually happened. Attitude leans fully into exactly what you would expect. Bold and kind of brash. The vocals cut through punchy percussion and tight synths, riding a groove anchored by that unlikely Tom's Diner sample, which gives the track a quirky and little bit hypnotic spine. The descending chorus here feels inevitable, each note nudging downwards towards a deep and guttural moment of self-realization. That mix of cleverness and steady drive makes Attitude land so excellently. I'm that girl. 28, Not Me by Eyelet. I'm obsessed with this song in the same way that I was with Lucky Girl Syndrome last year. Very characteristic to Eyelet, Not Me leans on repetition as the heart of the track, with the insistent "that's not my name" refrain acting as both a rhythmic anchor and also a kind of emotional punch. Each recurrence throughout the song gains more and more weight, turning what is otherwise a simple hook into a vehicle for character and thematic expression. It's clever and emotive, and really does so much to showcase their musical identity. I can imagine the narrator uttering "that's not my name" through gritted teeth, not furious over the misconceptions, but we're certainly reaching a boiling point. 27, Ash by LE SSERAFIM. Ash is, without a doubt, the musical centerpiece of Hot, layering textured synths and shifting harmonic motifs that do well to show off LE SSERAFIM's versatility. Vocals move between intensity and subtlety as we approach the chorus, striking out a tone of genuine longing in the chorus that melts the song's initial, spaced out vibe. I think the song's allure comes from that sudden, slamming turn of the chorus, but still backed by the quite desolate soundscapes. I feel like I'm lying on heat-cracked earth in the middle of a desert while I listen to this song. 26, Only Cry in the Rain by Chuu. This song perfectly captures the coming-of-age film aesthetic universally. Gentle piano, or maybe their key chords, soft percussion, and warm synths create such a cinematic soundscape. The arrangement balances resolution with a subtle building tension. Despite the vocals seeming quite resolved all throughout, there's a musical current that pulls the narrator under. It registers as she's trying to convince herself not to cry in this moment. It mirrors the bittersweet arc of the song and the video, giving it depth that goes so well beyond simple sentimentalness or sentimentality. 25, Blue Valentine by NMIX. I stand by my initial observation that Blue Valentine channels full-on emo band kid energy, with layered guitars, skating synths, and very introspective vocals. The arrangement plays with a push and pull tension. The pre-choruses pull back and sort of teeter from side to side, and then the choruses swell, creating emotional peaks that feel so earned. More subtle harmonies and textured percussion add depth throughout, matching the kind of wistful romantic tone. If this love is over, I'll be the one to carry it on. Melodrama at its finest, and I think really only NMIX could pull it off as well as this. Born Again, Lisa, Doja Cat, and Ray. Born Again somehow manages to balance three distinct voices, each adding weight and texture, though I think Doja Cat's verse really stands out with phrasing and intensity in verse and harmonies. Incredibly tense percussion and almost tectonic synths ramp up the high-stakes feel, underscoring the finality of a relationship's end. The mix of, vocal assertiveness and instrumental push turns the song into a moment of revelation, maybe at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, an almost vengeful, doubling down reminder of what the former love interest has lost. 23, Stunner by 10. I've talked about this song a lot this year. Stunner rides 10's command over a quirky, restless instrumental full of stuttering synths and kind of jittery percussion that keeps you on edge. Often unpredictable electronic flourishes and low thrums surge around the room, and somehow 10 navigates it with control, bending the track to his will while amplifying the energy. It's inventive yet unmistakably pop production at its core. Very, very excellent music.
Shape me.
22, Zen by Jennie. Zen is such a fascinating blend of subtle textures and very bold statements. I love the owls softly echoing in the background, and I think the guitar thrums, or I think they're guitar thrums that sort of wind playing in reverse, it all gives the track a sense of reflection and a sort of frozen in time disorientation. The arrangement moves from very calm consideration into such a confident peak. Jennie's delivery, quote, "Nobody's going to move my soul, going to move my own, my matter," lands with full conviction, supported by the swelling instrumentation and layered harmonies. The track feels like an actual musical moment of rebirth, and in retrospect, this song actually was that moment for Jennie while making this album. 21, Options by Twice. I might choose this one, might put him in a bag in addition to this one. He ain't given up because he got ambition. Options balances musical sophistication with lyrically playful charm. To me, the essence of K-pop in an increasingly Western-minded context. Elegant string arrangements weave through a clean pop framework while the lyrics flirt with whimsy and hyperbole. That combination gives the song real personality and an infectious kind of charisma, really working to show off Twice's growing skill of merging K-pop sensibilities with global-minded production choices. It's both musically compelling and a clear marker of their evolving reach. Options to me is really the pinnacle of Twice's sound and style in the modern day. A hyper-aware narrative play on the more vibrant edges of pop music. 20, Up and Down by Eunhyuk. I genuinely cannot tell you how I found this song. It came to me in a dream, and I was supernaturally prompted to seek it out. Up and Down channels a polished 90s soundscape with elastic basslines and tight drum programming. There's a swing and a sheen that fills a gap I've been missing in K-pop since the untimely loss of Triple H, and the visuals match the sound perfectly. The track and the album as an extension frames Eunhyuk as an unexpected kind of steward of pop language that values style. The whole release feels cohesive and incredibly compelling.
Anything can happen in my room. In my room, in my room.
19, In My Room by Chaeyoung. In My Room is defined by intimacy, with a sparse enough arrangement that lets melody and tone carry the narrative here. So delicate electronic accents frame Chaeyoung's voice, letting subtle phrasing shifts convey the possibility of, quote, anything could happen in my room. After getting to explore Chaeyoung's identity as a solo artist this year, this track feels like such a perfect bridge between her solo vision and her role as a member of Twice. 18, Extra Large, Jennie featuring Doechii. This song asserts identity with density and attitude. Doechii definitely amps up the edge, not just in her verse, but through the ad-libs in the second half that expand the song's spatial energy, right? It's also just a strong song by way of how much it did to present who Jennie sees herself as an artist, from production down to the visuals. It sets up a solid framework for how to perform a song with narrative bravado, something that K-pop certainly struggles with from time to time. It takes a certain kind of firepower to make it land as authentic, right? Even if it's not entirely literal, Extra Large rises to that occasion. 17, Gnarly by Cat's Eye. This would have been my most listened to song of the year if I didn't switch over halfway to the Ice Spice remix when it came out, and I just throw it back, let it shake. If I'm feeling down, I just look at my safe. Like, yes, I'm a 10 in the face. I got that you cannot replace. Completely. It might still be an unpopular opinion, but I really do think Gnarly thrived on its, I guess you could call it, unintuitive release, which only worked to cement Cat's Eye's cultural relevance, in my opinion. The jagged production contours overall make unpredictability Gnarly's central motive, framing the group as a provocation in their own right that must be engaged with culturally, and engaged with they were. It's hard to deny the impact. Gnarly deserves respect for both its audacity and its presence. 16, Jump by Blackpink. I never questioned this song, but it was October 18th. I wrote the date down. A brisk day, running in the rain in the park that I was fully enlightened to Jump's potential. I felt crazy. I felt free. I jumped. Jump thrives on that slingshot moment from pre-chorus to chorus, a leap that sparks a momentary burst of insanity and gives the track its heartbeat. It's playful and borderline clown-like in texture. Juggling percussion and punctuated vocal layers all work to subtly contrast with the otherwise predictable Blackpink structure, adding a sense of freshness to me. All four of them lean into this lightly absurd sonic character, showing a bold, unexpected kind of nuance in their production approach this time. We still don't have an album, not an album in sight, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay. We jump in the meantime. 15, Yum by Kepler. Oddly and randomly just the best song of all time, in many ways. Yum compresses its ideas into a very tight runtime, prioritizing immediacy and pure, fiery passion. The chorus detonates over a colossal wave of synth, with minimal transitions keeping momentum locked. Each and every line of this song, both musically and vocally, frame it as a charge against resistance. Even if the EP's concept wasn't fully explored, which I'm very sad about in some ways, Yum radiates that against the world concept, giving it a very clear and urgent purpose all on its own. 14 is Little Miss by Girl Set. I should have mentioned this with Gnarly, but this is the small part of the list where I say, I know I get a little liberal with the term K-pop. There is a conversation about global groups to be had. I've already had it. I don't personally find a problem including global groups out of K-pop companies on K-pop lists, but if you were to ask me if Girl Set was a K-pop group, I would probably say no. Does that make sense? K-pop as an identity marker versus K-pop as a music genre are two different things in my mind, which kind of sheds light to me on why K-pop is so difficult to actually describe the full extent of. Anyways, Little Miss by Girl Set. Texty with my bestie in the group chat if he feasible. Shakespearean in nature, and I mean that. This is such a good and clean example of giving the artists in the group artistic control. If this is round one, if this is just the start of Girl Set's vision for themselves, we are looking at world domination on our hands very, very soon. I'm very serious about that.
I can
13, White Cat by Eve. This song being here completely invalidates my rant at the start of the video because this just goes to show that bullying does work. The only reason I gave this song a chance was because people bullied me into it, so thank you for that. I mean that. I'll talk about it a little bit later in a future song about why I avoided this song, but after giving it a chance, White Cat plainly shows Eve staking her claim in K-pop with such an admirable, curatorial kind of approach that highlights her artistic identity. You know, we have these glitchy synths, filtered pads, and syncopated percussion that give depth and dimension to an otherwise odd lyrical premise, making the track feel adventurous yet coherent. This is the essence of K-pop, yet it is so globally minded in a lot of ways, very referential. It is a textbook example of having the finger on the pulse, perfectly fitting the post-Luna musical landscape that I think a lot of fans are looking for while cementing her evolving presence.
Everybody your story.
12, Sweet Ascend by 10. This song uses the la 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 refrain as a kind of central anchor, guiding the listener through shifting moods as we progress throughout the song. 10 vocally glides under the rumbling track underneath him, while layered instrumentation and warm synth pads create lift and progression. The song begins to musically fall apart as the chopped vocal sample grows overwhelming, and by the end, a mellow reprise of the instrumental leaves us in a kind of dark and guttural silence. I think it's that sense of characterization about temptation that keeps me coming back. It's very theatrical.
Dance, do a little dance, do a little dance, do ya wanna dance?
Number 11, Do the Dance by Islet. Whimsical family fun was had by all. Do the Dance thrives on an honestly meticulous play on rhythm and orchestration, grounded so well by the interpolated 5-Star Stories OST, which gives the melody real drive. I love the strings in this song. The chopped up vocal section after the chorus adds rhythmic tension. Initially jarring, I didn't think it was necessary on first listen, but over time I think it ultimately does add a lot of texture to the track. But yeah, the string arrangements thread through so beautifully. The production overall feels so inspired and cohesive.
Happiness in my stare. Ain't gonna take it there. Live it in the last we can Lucifer. Devil in disguise from the house.
Number 10, In Your Fantasy by ATEEZ. ATEEZ, you've done it again. Constantly raising the bar for all of us and doing it flawlessly. I'd say I'm surprised, but I know who you are. In Your Fantasy hits exactly the kind of polish I think many people are wanting from boy groups. Laser-focused pop production that grabs you instantly. Those driving, of course, Justin Timberlake Timbaland style synths and tight vocal layering keep the energy on track, while ATEEZ's performance pushes it over the edge and doesn't let up the entire way through. It is boy group pop production at its best and maybe most compelling, technically sharp and viscerally satisfying. I've said this like 30 times at this point, but ATEEZ is, like, categorically the boy group that I think general audiences are looking for. In Your Fantasy alone rises to that expectation and goes a couple more miles for good measure. It is such a well-constructed pop song. Number 9 is Icarus by Artemis. If you're well versed in chapter 17 of the choujimi lore, you may remember that I almost lost my life by not including this song in my mid-year version of this list. I didn't realize it, but I've really been grieving the loss of Luna in ways that are hard to explain and rationalize. It's caused me to outright avoid recent post-Luna projects outright, which is of course unfair to the members themselves. They deserve to move on. I remember a TikTok I saw of someone with a Heiju poster on her wall remarking about how she's really just a private citizen now, and it's kind of weird to reconcile with. It's been hard to fathom in this context, right? Icarus embodies rebirth, carrying past struggles into a tense but free-spirited arrangement that longs for release. Layered synths and angular percussion build up a soft hysteria, framing the sheer intensity of self-reckoning. Vocals and harmonies fracture and overlap, outlining the process of breaking apart in order to rebuild. A grim process, but necessary in order to move on. The track pushes forcefully through discomfort towards growth, which is exactly why I love it and also kind of hate it for its honesty.
Say you wanna do some things, better do some things. You wish, now I got you reading my lips, your eyes like in on my hips.
Number 8, Batitude by Twice. Say you want to do some things, better do some things. Batitude is energy-driven ego, right? Powered by punchy percussion, layered synths, and tightly interwoven vocals that keep momentum flowing. The horns and the instrumental steal the show for me. They guide the narrative and add so much personality to the track. Very smooth transitions between verses, pre-choruses, let the song ride its energy so effortlessly. While I think the whoa what's that refrains serve as such compelling anchors for the playful kind of bravado. This song appropriately does not let up. There's not a single section throughout its runtime that diverts momentum or staggers some energy. The pressure just increases over time. As a subunit song, I think it's also a good reminder of how well role changes work in Twice. Nine becoming the rapper for a verse here is really what I like to see. That combination of drive and polish and character makes Batitude such a standout from the This Is For album. Number 7, Like Jenny by Jenny. Who wanna rock with Jimmy? Keep your hair done, nails done like Jimmy. The absolute right standout single for the Ruby album. This song thrives on an in-your-face delivery with bold percussion and assertive vocal layering that commands attention from the very first beat. I think the second rap verse especially does so much to intensify the track's momentum. It just cuts through the mix so cleanly to give an even greater surge of confidence that feels so contagious. This combination of musical sharpness and performance energy turns the song into such a rallying statement for who Jenny is as an artist, sort of culminating her influences and experiences as an idol with great care. Number 6, The Chase by Hearts to Hearts. Despite how dreamy it is, there's enough musical construction that I can really sink my teeth into this song. I returned to it all this year. The Chase marries this dreamlike ambience with very careful musical architecture. There's a tangible shape beneath the song's haze. You're able to engage with its textures so fully, I guess. While arguably overplayed universally in K-pop this year, the dreamcore soundscape feels purposeful and immersive here. I think the balance of atmosphere and structure cements it as maybe the best dreamcore offering from 2025, in my opinion. The Chase feels like it's leading you somewhere just out of reach, its production constantly stepping a few beats ahead and motioning for you to follow. Those unexpected accents create a genuine sense of pull, like an invisible thread tightening as the song unfolds, perfectly capturing the almost, I guess, supernatural sense of attraction you succumb to over time. Definitely debut of the year, in my opinion. Number 5, Sign by Isna. This song would be on the iPod Nano of someone who was in high school when the Twilight films were screening in theaters. It's such a simple pop song, but its strength comes from the emotional weight in tone and vocal delivery. Sometimes that's all you need. The chorus lifts the track with an instrumental that loops with a subtle, kind of cyclical motion, giving a sense of continuity, working to frame the song's core emotion. It ends up musically sounding like someone pacing around in place while waiting for an answer, right? The final chorus happens twice, and the second one hits right as the first one is closing. And this moment, specifically, completely changes the emotional scale of the song to me, bringing it from a 10 to a 30. Everything swells here, the vocals feel more urgent, and what was being held back before suddenly feels exposed. As we desperately look for an answer by song's end, our narrator can't really fully hold herself together anymore, amplifying that sense of desperation and wanting some kind of signal, some green light to move forward in this relationship. That moment alone adds a surprising amount of depth here, turning again such a straightforward pop track into something that lingers emotionally. Number 4, Reality Hurts by NMIX. Reality Hurts is delivered as a full course meal with no shortcuts. It layers such heavy instrumentation and percussion and synths and vocal interplay that keeps energy relentless from start to finish. All of this with a palpable amount of grit just packed into it. Even in its 2-minute 30-second runtime, it fully commits, stacking textures and dynamic shifts for real escalation. Similar to the last, the chorus of this song also moves in a kind of cyclical motion. The grinding synths and punchy drums loop insistently, conveying the song's message of relentless and inescapable tension. The post-chorus syncopations and accentuated hits double down on this sense of urgency. The song wants you on the run from whoever or whatever it is that's following you. The grit and weight in every element reinforce the sonic ruthlessness, showing how fully the track embodies its concept.
This is for all my ladies who don't get hyped enough. If you've been done wrong, then this your song, so turn it up.
Number 3, in a shocking turn of events, is This Is For by Twice. I certainly did not always see the vision here. I seriously questioned this song at first, but after time with it and an open heart, This Is For proves how far Twice can go with a strong, insistent melody and instrumentation that is built to command you to the dance floor. Layered harmonies and steady rhythmic frameworks give each phrase weight, letting emotional resonance build even in its extremely short runtime. The song's conviction alone keeps it magnetic, elevating it to the upper echelon of the choujimi year-end charts. It's not revolutionary for Twice, or even K-pop broadly, but its craft and the way it navigates Western-minded production makes it feel smart and somehow deeply compelling.
But obviously, I'm offended.
Number 2, 8-Bit Heart by ITZY. God was in the studio the day this was recorded. The Lord used ITZY as a vessel. 8-Bit Heart is pure momentum, driven by tight percussion and vocals that keep the energy off the ground from start to finish. The song pulls back into sparse textures, letting tension build just enough so the hooks can hit with unbridled fury. The whole thing hinges on the explosively loud "I'm offended" lines, which are quirky and so committed to the points that they do work to ground the otherwise ridiculous moments like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I have to go, giving these lines unexpected weight and, importantly, believability. This balance of playful absurdity and energy restores a spark in ITZY's sound that I didn't even realize I was missing. The song feels so viscerally satisfying. Every section, from the build-ups to the hooks, reinforces that sense of whimsicality that ITZY thrives on. This is ITZY's arena. They can easily find success with production and writing that leans into the personality that they all individually bring. I immediately saw the vision with the song, but my appreciation for it has grown so exponentially over time. I don't even want to get into it, but you want to talk about songs that should have been the title track? This is something even more sinister than that.
So let's ride to the front line.
Number 1, High Horse by NMIXX. I feel like I've really been unclear about how much I like this song this year. There were no signs that this would have been number 1 on the year in choujimi charts. I barely talked about this song. What do I say about this song? High Horse communicates such an expressive kind of nuance, musically and lyrically, weaving a story of emotional impasse that feels lived in. Is the best way I think I can describe what's going on here. The narrator wants to move on from a friction point in a relationship, but simultaneously recognizes that any unresolved tension will ripple forward if ignored. And that sense of consequence hums beneath every note in this song. It's such an emotionally complex narrative. There are so many ideas that you can pull from this. Each member's vocal delivery embodies that tension. I'm freaking out. Like, the tone of desperation and bargaining gives the story such palpable weight, turning abstract emotion into something that feels real, shockingly real, in the context of this being a K-pop group and a K-pop song. The production bridges K-pop structural flair with more Western pop accessibility, from the intricate synth layers to the percussion, most especially, creating a track that does feel a little familiar but incredibly boundary pushing for K-pop. This song seems to really honor the fact that it's being sung by a K-pop group and flourishes beyond that starting point. Harmonies rise and fracture at such key moments, emphasizing the push and pull nature of this moment in a relationship, and the instrumental also works overtime to mirror the emotional back and forth. Every part of this song feels conceptually intentional. It's a masterclass in balancing technical precision, things like emotional clarity, the sensibilities of K-pop, and sheer performance energy. The result of that is a number 1 spot on the choujimi charts. NMIXX, you've done it again. It was a JYP sweep this year. The top 4 songs were all JYP girl groups. But yeah, I am sick of that high horse. At this point, I've said it before, at this point the horse is sick of me. Thank you so much for watching this. If you did, let me know what you think about this, your top songs of the year, and things like that. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.